Hi guys, hopefully you can hear my voice and you pressed play OK on this video. Today we're going to be looking at something called the UK's infrastructure, what that is and how it's being improved and developed. Now, as this is a video lesson, you have the opportunity to pause at any point. If there's anything you don't understand, you can pause it and go on the Zoom and ask me. But other than that, it should hopefully be quite straightforward. So all you have to do is you have to listen to my voice, listen to the content. You can make notes if you wish. At the end, there will be a series of about 3 questions. At the end of this video, can you please upload those to show my homework so I can have a little look through them. So, we're looking at something today called infrastructure. That's one of those words that kind of you might have heard on the news, you might have heard about, but really never really paid much thought to what it actually means. And essentially, what infrastructure is, it's the sort of basic organizational structures that we need to operate as a society. So it's things like roads, it's the buildings, it's power supplies. So for example, let's say we're talking about the infrastructure of the UK. If we didn't have roads, we didn't have power stations, and we didn't have any buildings, obviously the modern British society would not exist. So by having things like roads, it allows us to transport easily. We can get places. Having power enables us. When we turn on our light switch, that doesn't happen by accident. That's because we have a huge power network across the entire country that transfers the energy from power stations. If we didn't have that, our infrastructure would be very good, and also the UK would be quite poor. If we think about those videos that you see of the LICs, and you see those villages where there's sort of the mud huts, you don't see many roads, you don't see many, you don't see big power stations in the background. That's because they have quite poor infrastructure. And the argument is the economic principle is that the better your infrastructure is, the more developed your country will be. So for the UK to get richer and wealthier in the future, the argument is that we need to invest in our infrastructure, and that will enable everyday people to get more jobs, to get more money, to raise more taxes, to improve healthcare, and that whole cycle of thinking. Okay? Now, in the UK, we're doing a couple of different things. We're going to look today at 4 different aspects of the UK's infrastructure, what the government are doing or have done, and what they aim to do with that. As it's geography, it's going to be a bit contested. So for some of the things we look at, like the airports, there are people that do not agree with what is happening. So we'll get to that in a second. But the first one is road improvements. Now, the roads in the UK are pretty good overall, in my opinion. You can get on a motorway, you can get pretty much anywhere in the country. You can go from any town or city, and the roads will generally be okay. However, in the last sort of 10 years, the congestion on motorways has been getting really, really bad. The more cars are on the road, the more traffic there is, and therefore it's slower. And if you're a business, for example, and you want to transport your goods from London to Edinburgh in Scotland, and you know that normally that would take you 8 hours, and suddenly it's taking you 14, that's going to have a knock on effect on your business, because the less time you have transport's good, the more expensive it is, the more petrol. So the UK government announced something called the Road Investment Scheme, where they said they were going to aim to invest about £15 billion into the condition of the UK roads. So by this year, they aim to improve 100 new road schemes. They wanted to add on 1,300 new lane miles added to motorways. So that's adding an extra 4th lane even. And they wanted to add these extra lanes to them into the smart motorways. Some of you might have been on a smart motorway. They have the big signs where they've got that extra lane on them. So if there is a traffic jam, the idea is that they would direct traffic into certain lanes to stop the traffic from forming. And they've kind of been, they started to pop up across the country, and they're mainly trying to improve the links between London, Birmingham, and the north. That's the idea behind them. One of the main routes that's been quite contentious recently, though, is a road called the A303. And it's a main route in the southwest of England. So if you think on a map that you can see down here, It's down this sort of west side here, so London, of course, over here. We're up here in the northwest, southwest, and it's where Stonehenge is. So Stonehenge being the sort of national heritage site, very famous, and it's been very, very, very controversial because that road is basically have a huge amount of traffic on it because lots of people first start to go for the tourism of Stonehenge, but also it's quite a highly populated area. It is still relatively close to London and the southeast. So the plan was to build a £2 billion road widening project that would take place over about 15 years. The problem is that they want to dig underneath Stonehenge. So they want to dig a tunnel underneath Stonehenge, and that is causing quite a few problems with the locals who are arguing that that will kind of ruin the natural beauty of the area. It might damage the reputation and the tourism that it brings in. From the government's perspective, having that extra road will create hundreds of jobs, and it will also allow the transport of goods through business and trade to be much, much, much easier as a result of that congestion, that traffic being reduced. That's a little close up there. So with safety improvements, there's a new dual carriageway, and there's that tunnel underneath Stonehenge. So that's the first thing, the road improvements. What they're also trying to do is they're also trying to improve the railways as well, with trains. Now, HS2, as you can see there, is probably the most famous one. And the reason they're trying to improve the railways is unlike travel by car, trains are much, much faster. And investment in railways is vital to improve the links between the regions in the UK and also the rest of Europe as well. So obviously we have a train link from the UK to Paris, and that is a really good thing to stimulate our economy. Let's talk about HS2. It's a huge plan, £50 billion. It's more likely going to cost a lot more than that. And the idea is it's one of these really high-speed trains. So in places like Japan and China, they have these bullet trains where the trains go maybe 50, 60 kilometers faster than the trains in the UK go. And the idea would be that the journey times from HS2 will cut the times basically almost in half. To be able to get from Birmingham to London in an hour, normally it'd take you an hour and a half, 2 hours. That doesn't sound like an awful lot, but they're trying to improve the amount of jobs outside London. So if you're a business and you want to set up your business, the chances are you're going to set it up near London, who's got lots of airports, got lots of access to jobs as well. However, if there is now a high-speed train link linking you to Birmingham and London, which is only 1 hour on the train, you might go, well, hang on a minute, it's cheaper in Birmingham. I'm only an hour away from London now, which is nothing at all, considering that if you were to drive into London and you lived inside London, it would still take you about 30, 40 minutes. And they might go, okay, we'll move up north and move to Birmingham, move to Manchester, move to Liverpool, move to Leeds. And that idea is that it's going to stimulate the economy. So there'll be more jobs in those areas, raising more tax, and will help improve the quality of living while people are there. But I told you it's geography. It's very, very, very contested. So the supporters say it'll create thousands of jobs. They say it will generate £40 billion for the UK economy. Bear in mind, it's going to cost about 40 to 50 billion. Increased railway passengers is good for the environment. Faster ways to travel between cities. However, I kind of half agree with this point here that I think it's more likely to create jobs in London, because rather than people move to Birmingham, they might go, hang on a minute, if I'm in Birmingham, I'm only an hour away from London, that's now easily commutable for me. So I will work in London but live in Birmingham. So I think it might create more jobs in London. Their cost is going to be high. And also, the problem with it is that people the expense of it is absolutely huge, and if it does increase the amount of jobs in London, it will have the opposite effect of what it's meant to have. If that happens, we're going to look at next lesson called the North-South divide, and that North-South divide, if that gets any worse, is going to be a big issue. But bear that thought in mind for our lesson after this one. So that's a little image of it there. So we'll start in London. The phase 1 will go to Birmingham. The second phase will then connect places like Crewe, Sheffield, Manchester, Leeds. And in theory, the third phase would then connect us to Liverpool as well. The idea is that, like I say, if you're in Manchester, normally it would take you about 2.5, 3 hours to get to London. This might be an hour and 45. That still sounds like a long time, but to get to the capital city from pretty much anywhere in England in that speed is very, very good indeed. Okay, third one is the UK's port development. So the UK is an island. We have a huge number of ports, and ports are very, very good because they enable international trade. They enable the UK to trade with other places around the world. The main idea is this idea called containment shipping. So you can see these little containers here. They are designed to a set size, and you can transport goods around the world. If you order anything from Amazon, if you order anything from basically anywhere outside the UK, the chances are it's been transported by container port or container ship rather. Now in the UK, they've gone okay. We're an island. We've got a long history of naval success. Why don't we try and improve our ports to improve the amount of trade we have? Because if they have more trade, they gain more money and there's more jobs and it's better for the UK's economy. And one of the ones a bit closer to home is they're trying to make a new one in Liverpool. It started operating about, I'd say 3 years ago now. It's called Liverpool 2. And it's a deep water port in Liverpool. And it did create a lot of jobs. And it did boost the economy of the Northwest. Okay, so it was very good there, that little port in Liverpool. That's not the only one though. They've invested in Belfast, in Bristol, in Dover, in Felixstowe, and also in Grimsby, London, Milford Haven, and Southampton. Okay, so you can see on that map there the huge investment they're putting into this. They're banking on the UK being this hub for global trade. Because, say, for example, an American company wants to sell things to Singapore, the chances are it's not going to be able to go by aeroplane, too expensive. It might go to a UK port where it then travels to parts of Africa, or then travels to parts of Europe. And the UK makes a lot of money off that, essentially. A huge amount of money indeed. Okay, the last one we're going to look at is something called airport development. Now, airports are absolutely vital to the UK. They are probably one of the largest growers in economic terms of our economy, and that's why with this whole COVID situation, people are very worried about closing airports because a huge amount of our sort of jobs and well-being relies on it. The aviation sector, the airport sector, the plane sector, employs about 300,000 people, which is 3.6% of the overall UK GDP, which is very, very high. 750,000 international flights depart from the UK annually. 2 million tons of freight, which is the trade, the goods, pass through the UK's airports each year, which is a huge, huge amount indeed. And because of that, there's been a fair bit of controversy because Heathrow Airport, which is the biggest airport in the UK, it's in London, they want to expand their airport. They've already got 2 runways, they want to add a third one in. The idea being that if they can add a third runway, they can welcome more flights, they can welcome more freight, some more trade, they can welcome more passengers, and they argue that will allow more jobs. It will help London compete with New York and Paris, who are also 2 very big airports, and it will help UK trade. However, a lot of people got their backs up about this one mainly because of the environmental aspects of it. So airports and planes are huge emitters of CO2, and we're entering this kind of climate crisis. And the objectors say that actually the UK is already a huge CO2 emitter. So why add another runway, which might result in tens or hundreds of thousands of more flights every year from the UK? The noise pollution will get worse. Imagine if you live in the area around Heathrow Airport here, it's already going to be very loud with 2 runways, all those planes constantly leaving and coming in. If they add a third one in, that's 1 million people who are going to be impacted by that noise pollution. So really, not going to be too good for them. So it's kind of this toss up between the economy and the environment, and it's still ongoing. Every time they think it's going to get sorted, there's new challenges, there's new protests. But we'll have to see how it happens in the future. It'll be quite interesting to see if they actually do end up building the runway or not. So, a little bit of a quiz then. I want to pause this video now, please. And as you pause it, can you please have a go at these questions? So for each one, I want you to tell me what type of infrastructure it is talking about. Okay, hopefully you've unpaused me. So the first one is the railway. The second one is the roads. And the third one is the port infrastructure. Okay, so the final questions then, guys. I need you to upload your answers to this to show my homework. So 3 questions. The first question is explain why infrastructure development is important for the UK. Second one, what are the advantages and disadvantages of airport development? And the third one, what are the benefits of building a new port in Liverpool? So you can go back through this video, you can replay my voice, and hopefully the answer should all be in there. Upload these to show my homework, and then that is the lesson done. Perfect. Right, thank you very much.